Ladies and gentlemen, this is Scott Pollack, Chief Editor of the Critical Post Chicago reporting. Welcome to another edition of the Goldwater Report. Thanks again for tuning us in, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate it. This edition of the Goldwater Report is coming to you live, or almost live, from the capital of the Midwest Coast, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to open up. This is going to be the first open discussion. The comment thread's going to be automatically opened. You can start discussing this amongst yourselves and with this anchor desk and the people interacting with this anchor desk. And I want to remind everybody to keep it respectful and to not use terms of ignorance or cast aspersions upon anybody for any reason. Don't use any kind of personal attacks in these threads. You will be banned. Before I read the bill H.R. 5404 into the record in this broadcast, which I'm going to do later, probably tomorrow or the next day, I first wanted to come on the air and start recognizing some of the people who are joining the conversation. We have a lot of negative momentum to overcome. Since yesterday, still, only 10% of the people are paying attention to the fact that H.R. 5404, introduced into the House of Representatives on March 22, 2018 by Republican Representative Alex Mooney from West Virginia, only 10% of the people are paying attention. And that's to include an email blast, which I sent to about 60, 70 people, maybe 30, maybe not, maybe 30 people that I have on my personal email account. That includes them. People are distracted. They're distracted because they can't get ahead of an inflation curve, and we're going to deal with that term, inflation. And they're distracted because they're making a living and trying to get ahead of the tax curve. But H.R. 5404 is an inflection point that will be able to cause a peaceful revolution in this country that is more important than anything else going on. It goes to the root of everything else. Everything else flows from who are the sovereigns in this country. And I'm here to remind you that you, whoever you are watching, you look in the mirror, you're not the sovereign. You have no ability to influence the House of Representatives, no ability to be, through your representatives, the authorizer of the printing of our legal tender and coinage. No ability. And that is the central issue in this country. Until that issue is dealt with in the present environment, until you understand that you can't possibly govern this country until you seize your right to be the authorizer of the printing and the coinage and the minting of the coinage in this country. Nothing else matters. And H.R. 5404 is the fulcrum and lever that gives us that opportunity. I'm going to try and get Alex Mooney on the Skype or some such other medium. I'm going to try and get him on the phone and talk to him about what he thinks about this and why he did this. And I don't want to get into the modalities about whether there should be a gold standard or whether we have a constitution or we don't have a constitution or whether or not we have a United States code. All of these things. I don't want to get into those modalities right now. Of primary importance is that you recognize you and your interaction with your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, your grandparents, everybody that you know. You need to understand, and you need to tell them to understand that they are not the sovereigns in this country until this issue is solved. I don't understand. I don't know any other way to tell you directly that that is the issue. And I'm going to keep this anchor disc focused on this issue because this is the public relations that needs to take place. This is what needs to take place in this country. Like I said yesterday, I've spent 9 years studying what our status is. This is our status. We are not the sovereigns. There's a lot of modalities and a lot of reasons why. But if we don't exercise this opportunity, this country, which has been largely lost at this point, largely, it's inconceivable how at any time in the future we'll ever get it back. What are we going to wait? Until all the credit systems dry up again? What are we going to do? And a lot of people talk about a lot of things. We're addicted to propaganda and distractions. That's one addiction. And that addiction has to be gotten over. This needs to be the top discussion in the country right now. That addiction's got to be gotten over. Those distractions need to disappear. People need to pay attention to our discussion here, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of things to do in regards to that. A lot of things to do. And the other addiction that keeps you focused on your first addiction is this. Here's your addiction. See that? It says right at the top, Federal Reserve Note. This is your addiction. And being distracted by propaganda, this whole thing with the Mueller investigation, the whole thing with the Syrian war, all this other stuff, the death and destruction across the world, blood and guts all over the world, your addiction to those distractions, when on the House of Representatives right now at H.R. 5404, your opportunity to voice your opinion and bring that to the floor of Congress, those distractions will stop this country and the citizens of this country from getting over this addiction. The top of this should say United States dollar, minted by the United States Treasury, which is authorized by the House of Representatives and the Senate. Do you understand that? This is an addiction. And I want to make one more statement. When you transfer this between yourselves, what you're transferring is an agreement of debt between each other. The note portion of this means debt. Why is debt a value? What's the intrinsic value other than human capital? Do you understand that? Now we can talk about that issue, human capital, and whether human capital should be a taxable thing. Because I got an opinion about that. I want to talk about that modality right now. Note should be nowhere. If we're going to use these things to ease money supply throughout the country, fine. It should say United States dollar. That's number one. Number two, when you transfer this between yourself and somebody else, this is a silver half dollar. 10.585 grams of fine silver mixed in with, I believe, copper or brass. There's nothing on this coin that says federal. We'll get into that term in a minute. There's nothing on it that says federal. It says liberty, in God we trust, in the United States of America. That's it. E pluribus unum. That's it. You're transferring wealth, intrinsic value, wealth. I want to thank, we'll get into those points later. I don't want to get lost in that right now. H.R. 5404 is very important, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for this country to exercise their sovereignty as we the people, in one voice as a collective, across all political belief systems and special interests. George Washington warned everybody, don't get into faction. And at the end of his term, everybody ignored him, but everybody can agree about this. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or a Green Partyan. Doesn't matter if you're a climate changean, a global warmian, an LGBTQian, an African American, a white American. Doesn't matter. All these hyphenated kinds of Americans, doesn't matter. Everybody can agree that we, as this collective, should be the authorizers of our currency. Not these people hidden behind closed doors. A lot has been written about the Federal Reserve. Don't want to get into all those modalities. But they are the sovereigns. The New York Federal Reserve Bank, and what's going on Wall Street behind closed doors that create the printing of this piece of cabbage, so called in the old days. Right now, these are the sovereigns. They're running the country. And we need to take it back. H.R. 5404 gives us the opportunity to have that debate now. You understand the momentous of this? The momentousness of this occasion? Alex Mooney, Republican of West Virginia, introduced a bill into the House to bring us back to the gold standard. I don't want to talk about the gold standard right now. Bill still has dealt with this. I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to talk about the opportunity to bring this to debate on the House floor. And for the people in this country to start speaking in one voice. Do you understand how important that is? Regardless of whether you understand what money is or not. Now, I want to thank a couple of people here. Disclosure Now was one of the first commenters 3 days ago when I made mention of this. I don't know who you are, Disclosure Now. I'd like to know your name. Send your name to bsidler at the critical-post.com. That's the publicist and lead writer for the Critical Post in semi-retirement, Brian Sidler. BSIDLER at the critical-post.com. But I want to thank you for making a comment. I want to thank another man or woman by the name of Enlightenment News. Don't know what your real name is. Don't know if you're a male or a female. And I want to address your comment, Enlightenment News. You're using the term cabal, and then you say that, you know, the cabal owns all of them, and of course they won't be talking about the way the comment goes exactly as follows. Of course they won't be talking about it. The cabal own all of them. The cabal are fighting it to the bitter end. This is why JFK was done in. It's time! Exclamation point. Enlightenment Now, please. Enlightenment News. Please send your real name to bsidler at the critical-post.com. I'd like to know who I'm talking to. But I want to address your term like I did in the feed under my reply. This term cabal, Zionism, Illuminati, all of these terms are politically charged terms that do not serve to further this discussion. These are terms of ignorance. And I'm not trying to say you're ignorant. I'm just saying that this language are terms of ignorance that is spread all over the internet. It has no place here. Okay? There are, like I said, hereditary banking trusts, hereditary industrial trusts. These families go back in this country a couple of centuries in some cases. You can read about them, like I said, in Ferdinand Lundberg's The Rich and the Super Rich. And even calling them rich. I like to say that's a Marxist term, politically charged term. I like to say they're just highly monetized positions. That's all. And that goes back long ways in this country. But make no mistake about it, they are part of the problem. I want to talk to Steve Saferat, or Seferet, Saferat, who made a comment. I want to thank you, Steve. I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name, but I want to thank you for making a comment. And I would like to thank Larry Matilla for making a comment and joining the thread. Thanks a lot, Larry. You are in agreement with me that there's an addiction to propaganda in the country. I agree with that. And I want to thank the man that chimed in on Facebook, a man by the name of Tucker Burns, who says that he's in contact with Harmon Taylor as a result of my work at the Critical Post Chicago and having brought his attention to it. You're welcome, Tucker. That's the people I want to recognize here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you something really quick here about how this is all working and what I think is going on and where this all boils down to. I put this up and we have this phrase here. I put this up in a post, front-loaded predictive analytics, opinion, consensus technology. This regards how the propaganda distracts us as an addiction from concentrating on what our primary addiction is. And I want to drag this down here, and I want you to see why this is, where all of this is. We have all the government services. Here's what we have. We have all the clandestine services are operating on behalf of all the banking cartels. In terms of what I'm seeing after 9 years of research, a worldwide economic fascism agenda. And filtering under that, we have all the government services and the private corporate sector participations. And under that, in order to make all of this work, we have pop culture, nihilism, public relations, and political celebrity public relations, which then, in turn, rock the financial markets. I'll get into the rest of this in a second, but we have to deal with these addictions. We have to deal with getting rid of these distractions. You understand? Now you can look at that chart, go to the head page of the Critical Post, you can download it. I think it's correct. But I wanted to say thank you. Now this is going to be open, but I don't want to get lost in anything. I don't want to get lost in doing anything but staying focused on one idea. We are not the sovereigns now. You are not the sovereign. We as a collective are not the sovereigns of this country. And that's a sorry state of affairs, and the reason we are not the sovereigns is because we do not authorize the coinage and the supply of this coinage. Do you understand that? Now you can start having comments below. We're going to make this open. And again, I want you to be respectful to each other. And we'll be monitoring it. But let's understand something. HR 5404 gives us the ability to go and pressure the people in the House of Representatives to make us the sovereigns again, irrespective of a gold standard or however this mix of coinage and legal tender occurs, irrespective of any of that. On the next Goldwater report, I'm going to read into the record HR 5404 as written and submitted by the Republican from West Virginia, Representative Alexander Mooney. Again, this is Scott Pollack, Chief Editor of the Critical Post Chicago, reporting. Thanks again for watching another Goldwater report coming to you live or almost live from the capital of the Midwest Coast, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Stay tuned for the next broadcast. That is all.